Hello everyone, welcome to Topic of the Day. My name is Kritika and today in this video we will discuss about the status of coral reefs of the world. We will discuss this topic in context of a report released by Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network along with the Australian government that prepared the status of coral reefs of the world for the year 2020. Now this was the 6th edition of this report which was released in October 2021. Its first edition was released back in 2008. This report describes status and trends of the global coral reefs worldwide. Before we discuss about the coral reefs, let's talk in brief about the major findings and suggestions made in this report. Firstly, we'll talk about the resilient corals. If we talk about the resilience of the corals, coral reefs were affected for 3 decades. However, they were resilient and could withstand the challenge of warming oceans. Now, the resilience of coral reefs is a biological ability of coral reefs to recover from natural and anthropogenic disturbances such as storms, bleaching, etc. But still the figures are shocking. As in 1998, coral bleaching killed 8% of the world's coral, and between 2009 to 2018, approximately 14% of the corals died down. Some of the major causes of depletion of the coral includes increase in the sea surface temperature and increase in the algal blooms. If we talk about the increase in surface temperature, a warming ocean generally causes thermal stress that contributes to the coral bleaching and infectious diseases. Now when we talk about the harmful algal blooms, it generally clouds the surface water, thus blocking the sunlight and preventing the coral's algae to grow food for itself and the coral. As this bloom dies and further decays, the dissolved oxygen is depleted, causing the coral to suffocate and die. Further, there are some suggestions given in this report which talks about lessening the pressure on the corals, monitoring the data collection, technology usage, etc. This report was the largest analysis of the global coral reef health ever undertaken that spanned over 40 years, 73 countries, across 12,000 sites, and the data was collected by more than 300 scientists through a 2 million individual observations. Now let us move on to a brief discussion on coral reefs. Coral reef is an underwater ecosystem that is characterized by reef-building corals. These reefs are formed of colonies of coral polyps held together by calcium carbide. Now what are these coral polyps? Coral polyps are the tiny little animals that are generally related to anemones and jellyfish. They can live individually or in large colonies that comprise a coral reef. Now these coral polyps live in an endosymbiotic relationship with the algae. Now this endosymbiosis is a mutually beneficial relationship between a host organism and an internal associate organism. In the case of coral reefs, the algae use photosynthesis to produce nutrients, many of which they pass to the coral cells. Now these corals in turn emit waste products in the form of ammonium, which the algae consume as a nutrient. In general, there are 2 types of corals: the hard corals, which are stony and made up of calcium carbonate, and other ones are the soft corals, which don't produce calcium carbonate and also they don't form the reefs. They live in temperature of 20 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius and the salinity between 27% to 40%. Generally, the coral reefs grow better in shallow water, that is less than 50-meter depth. You might have heard of the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef is the world's largest coral reef system, composed of over 2,900 individual reefs and 900 islands, stretching for approximately 2,300 kilometer area. It is located in the Coral Sea, Australia, and is a famous World Heritage Site. If we talk about Indian region, coral reefs are generally found in the Gulf of Kutch near Gujarat, Gulf of Mannar in the south, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the Lakshadweep Island, and also in the Malvan region nearing Maharashtra. Now let's discuss about some of the benefits of coral reefs. The coral reefs occur in more than 100 countries and territories, and while they cover only 0.2% of the sea floor, they support at least 25% of the marine species, thus providing an important ecosystem for the underwater life, that is the marine ecosystem. It also contributes to the blue economy and employment. Now this word blue economy stands for the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs, and the ocean ecosystem health. The coral reefs are also the basis of food chain in the marine ecosystem. It also guards against the incoming storms and carbon sequestration. Now the ocean carbon sequestration is a method to distribute the carbon dioxide more evenly throughout the ocean depth and minimize the surface ocean impacts. The coral reefs are also used for its several medicinal properties and also in the cosmetic industry. The major threats to coral reefs involve destruction of the coastal areas and overfishing, also high pollution and the coral harvesting for several uses, and most importantly, the impact of global warming that causes bleaching, algal blooms and acidification, etc. Now let's talk about the possible way ahead for decrease in the coral losses. First of all, we have to focus on limiting the global average temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. Then some collaborative efforts are needed to tackle the overfishing and marine pollution. We have to take steps in the direction of climate resiliency as in the Paris Agreement and Sustainable Development Goals. Also, research and development is required for heat-resistant corals. Using technology, the coral in vitro fertility, that is IVF, could be opted using coral eggs and sperm. So this was all for this edition of Topic of the Day. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. For regular updates, you can follow us on our social media handles. And for more such videos, do stay tuned to the next IAS YouTube channel.